Crocker here, and in today's episode of Cooking Without a Net, we're going to learn how to make cinnamon raisin buns in a cast iron pan. And also, we've got a very special musical guest today. Busted Flat recording artist Alfie Smith joins us. So stay tuned, and we're going to have some fun with this episode. This recipe for cinnamon buns starts out pretty much the same way as the loaf of bread that we learned about in the previous episode, only this time we're going to use a cast iron pan. So we're going to start with, first we're going to warm up the water. Okay, so we're going to start with 4 cups of flour, a teaspoon and 3/4 of yeast, about 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and we're just going to wait for the water to warm up here. If you recall in the last episode, we warmed up the water in a microwave for 120 seconds. That just helps the yeast get active for this. So this is going to be super cool. It's an easy recipe. Now, as we move along here, you're going to need some brown sugar. You will need some butter, obviously, to put on the buns when we're cooking them. Some cinnamon and some raisins or dead flies. You know, whatever you like. It's kind of up to you. I like raisins. But super easy recipe. So the water's almost done here, and we'll get right to this. I'm going to just go ahead and put the flour in the bowl now. Just a standard little bowl. This flour did not need sifting today. It's a fresh bag. I'll just wait for the beeper here. And we'll measure this stuff out. I'm kind of excited to see Alfie Smith today. That guy probably knows his way around a cinnamon bun or two. Okay, so we have the warm water. We're going to put a 1.75 teaspoons of the yeast into the warm water. Just get that in there. A little bit more. Just kind of sprinkle that around in the water, you know, just sort of get it out and around, and then the last bit here. Okay. Now also we want to just get in a quick 1.5 teaspoons of salt. We'll just sort of spread that around in the dough mixture. Well, the flour won't be a dough mixture just quite yet. Get another half in there. All right. Now, we also, while we have it in there, we just want to maybe stir the salt and the flour around a little bit just to mix it in before we put the water in. Now, we've got the yeast in the water. We just want to stir that a little bit just to get it mixed in there. You know, just a little bit here just to get it going. Then I'm just going to go ahead and just sort of pour this around the outside. It just makes it easier to work with. And if you remember the last time, I reminded y'all, wash this out right away. It's a lot easier to clean the yeast out of the container now than it is if it's all dried up. It's just like glue. I'm just going to take a second to do that over here. Now, we'll go ahead and we'll just slowly start to mix the sugar and water, the flour and water mixture together here. Just what we want to do here, just mix it gently, just like the last time. And then what we're going to do is just make sure there's no dry flour left anywhere in it. So you don't have to mix it too hard, but just enough so you don't see any dried flour left. Okay. Just keep mixing this around a little bit here. Get it going. There we go. I just keep using my little purple spatula here. Spin that around a bit more. You can see the dry stuff's almost out, and it really doesn't take too much, and you don't have to overdo it. You just don't want the dry flour laying in there, okay? Now, of course, with this recipe, it takes time. As you recall in the last one here, the first rise takes an hour and a half. So we're almost ready here. Just going to stir that up pretty good there. Just like that. Right. Now, I'm just going to scrape off the excess dough here. All right. Now, so this is ready to go for its first rise. We're going to cover it up with our trusty plastic bag. Put that underneath. Okay, so we're going to sit and let that rise for an hour and a half. So find something to do. I'll see you guys a little bit later on here. All right, we're back. That was an hour and a half. Hope you did something fun. So we're just going to take the dough out of the bag. This is just a very simple part of this right now. What we need to do is just do the good old stab and flip. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to stab the bread. The reason we're stabbing this dough is just to get any air out of it. Then we're going to do the classic flip as we did in the previous episode. Just flip it over a little bit like there. Flip it over a little bit more. Flip over there. Right. Just one more flip here. All right. Pretty simple. I'm just going to go ahead and get the dough off that. All right. Well, I'm going to cover it back up and let it sit for another hour and a half. So go find some other stuff to do, and we'll be back after this rise. Okay, the dough is fully risen. Now we're going to get ready to have some fun. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little bit of flour, use it on our trusty little pad here. Now I'm going to use a little sifter for this, just so it evenly spreads the flour throughout the work area. So I'm just sort of going to sprinkle that in, sprinkle it around, just to give myself a surface area to work with the dough on. You don't need a lot of flour, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit. You know, just sort of get it set up in there, sprinkle it around a little bit, get yourself an area made. Okay, set that there. So what we're going to do is we're going to just dump the dough right onto the work area. You probably are going to want to use your little spatula for this. It is quite sticky. Part of the reason for the flour is so that it's not quite so sticky. Okay, just going to get that on there. Get it going. All right. Then we're going to take a little bit more flour, just sort of sprinkle it over the top of the dough through the sifter, just to keep it kind of even. Just helps to work with the dough a little bit. Maybe just a touch more around the edges there. All right. So now we're just going to sort of flip the dough over a little bit here, get some flour on it, get some of the air holes out of it. You know, you don't want big air pockets in this. Okay, now what we're going to do is begin slowly stretching the dough out from underneath and from over top. And what we want to do here is sort of get it into a rectangular shape, reasonably thin. We want the dough reasonably spread out. You just kind of got to work it a little bit, you know. Have some fun with it. You don't want to get too many thick spots in the middle of it. Break up some of the little air bubbles that you may find in it. Maybe flip this over now once. Right. Oh, there's Yuki's talking to us outside. Okay, so now we just slowly want to work this underneath and get it squared out as close as you can. Not really squared, more like a rectangular kind of shape. Okay, like this. So the dough's looking kind of square there. You don't want to maybe press it down too much. Just sort of work it around a little bit. Maybe it's not too square over here. We'll see if I can pull this aside a little bit. I'm gonna let Yuki come in here. Actually, she's just gonna sit out there and bark at the world. That's all right. Okay. All right, so pretty good here. Maybe a little thin there. Used to be a little more square. A little more square. Stretch that out a little bit. All right, reasonably square. No air pockets in it. All right, this is where it gets kind of fun. So, what we're gonna do first of all, we're gonna generously sprinkle some cinnamon all over the square. You know, you can get lots in there. Get it in there. You know, if you like cinnamon, I like cinnamon. Reasonably inexpensive. Just sort of get it in there a little bit, right? Okay, that's pretty good. It's a fair amount of cinnamon there. Then take some nice brown sugar. Now the brown sugar you don't need too much of. Just use a little bit of it. You know, just sort of same thing. Sprinkle it around. Try to spread it out. You don't want to have big sugar pockets if you can avoid it. You know, I tend to just sprinkle it around there. As I do this, I tend to make a mess everywhere, but that's all right. It is a kitchen, you know. Sprinkle some in there, just sort of so that it's reasonably evenly spaced all around. Okay, spaced up pretty good here now. And then the final little bit, let's get that sugar off there. Okay, so far you've got a thing there. Now, take the final ingredients, which are raisins. You know, just sort of get some raisins in around there. Again, these measurements are all whatever how much you like it. If you like a lot of raisins, put some raisins in. You don't like raisins, don't put raisins in. If you only like a few raisins, well, do whatever you want. If you like dead flies, put dead flies in it. I mean, right? Cheap way around. Protein, I guess. All right. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to take a quick little second here. I've got to get some extra secret weapons here, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Okay, ready to roll this up into the buns. So what we're going to do now is just gently take this, just kind of roll it. Just kind of roll the whole thing, you know, kind of. Now, what you want to do, you might want to get some more flour as we go here. I'm just going to sprinkle some on my hands because the dough is kind of sticky. It's easy to work with this way. I'm just going to roll this over, roll this into a sort of a big snaky thing here. Okay, see what we've done here. Now this particular one, everything's wrapped up inside there. Now, this is how we're going to do this. This is one of the more difficult parts of this whole thing. Is actually, there should be enough dough here to make 8 decent cinnamon buns in the cast iron pan. So here's the trick here. We're going to take some dental floss. Of course, you don't want to use used dental floss. Hi, Yuki. Would you like to come outside? Hi. Let's go outside. Go, go, go. So you don't want to use, excuse me, you want some dental floss. You can use used dental floss if you want, but probably go with new dental floss. Now, what's going to happen here is we're going to find the halfway mark of the dough. We'll get the dental floss underneath it. That's about halfway. What we're going to do is just sort of take it and just pull that now until it goes all the way through the dough. Okay? Then we'll continue to do this at the halfway mark. So now we're going to take it down to halfway of the first one here. A little tricky to work with, but it's okay. So this is about halfway. So I'm going to take this one and just cut it. Just pull it gently. Don't break the floss. It'll come apart the way it is. Now you can go ahead essentially and just finish it up. So we're going to have the final halfway point on this one is right here. Okay, just gonna do that one. I just keep repeating this as we go. Very easy. You know, this is the best way to do this. It'll cut it way cleaner than a knife, that's for sure. You'll totally thank me for this. Little trick later if you're trying to use a knife on this stuff like I did. Just cut that one. Okay. Didn't quite go through. So I had a little mistake here. That's okay. We'll just sort of fix that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. So now I'll follow the same procedure underneath on the other one. Just about the halfway mark here. Oh, that's stuck in there. Okay, we're just going to take this gently, come underneath the final one here. It can be a little tricky to work with this stuff, but once you get onto it, you'll be fine. I'm just going to take some new dental floss since that one sort of landed right in the dog dish. No biggie. Okay, we'll just finish these up now. We'll get these last two done. Just gonna kind of cut them here. I should have maybe used just a little bit more flour, but we'll be okay. All right. The flour, you can be a little more generous with it. Just really makes it easier to work with the dough. And if you're sort of ham-fisted like I am, it can become a struggle. Okay. And then the very last one. All right, we're super close to the oven. We'll be right back with the final step before we drop it in. Okay, now the next step you want to do is I've already went ahead and done a couple of steps to save time here. You want to melt some butter. Not margarine, use some real butter. In the microwave, get it liquefied. Get yourself a little brush, an applicator brush. And what we're going to do first is just lightly coat the entire pan, the cast iron pan, with the butter. Also make sure that you get lots of butter on the sides, because when these buns begin to bake, they're going to expand and they're going to touch the sides of the pan. You don't want them to stick together. Now, we're not using all the butter on this one just yet, because we still need some of this butter for the next part to use to spread action on the rolls. Okay, so now we're ready essentially to put the rolls in the pan. So we're going to take them, and what you want to do, if you can, is just kind of pinch the bottoms closed. I'll show you in this camera. Pinch them closed. And the reason we do that is so that the raisins don't fall out and get stuck to the pan and start making a mess. Okay, so we're just going to set them in there, try to spread them apart a little bit. You know, as we go here, just sort of pinch them closed if you can. They don't have to be perfect, but just kind of pinch them so they're closed. Okay, this one here is not sticking. The dough should be sticky enough to pull that off. Set it in the pan. You know, we're set up here for 8, so try to plan accordingly. Give yourself enough space in the pan to do this. Okay, just gonna pinch these up, put it in there, sort of leave some space there. Got this one down here. This one's kind of already stuck a little bit. Not much going on there. We're just gonna drop that one, that small one in there. One at the end's always a mess for me. Same thing over here, just kind of pinch it so nothing gets out of there. In there. Okay. Same thing here, just a quick pinch. Okay. Closing it now. They don't have to be perfectly, I mean, you should try to avoid them touching each other. However, it's not a huge deal. The butter will cook with them, bake with them, and not let them stick together when you pull them out of the pan. As long as you got it pinched at the bottom. Okay, center one in there, and then the final one's gonna fit right here. Right in there. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to take, we're done with this for now. Put that in the sink, get this over here. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take the remainder of the butter that we had, melted butter, and we're just going to coat, that one's kind of flipped over a bit. Let's get that one up right. We're just going to lightly brush butter on the remaining buns. And the reason we do this is so that when they bake, they don't all stick together. As we'll listen to Yuki bark out there and whatever's going on. She could very well be barking at me right now because I'm talking to a phone. Give me a sec here. Want to come in? All right. Sometimes she gets riled up if I'm in here talking to the phone, or if I'm... Could be another dog out there, who knows? Okay, so we just gently cover it all in butter. Okay, and then this is just fine like this. Just use the rest of it up there. Just be a little generous here, but mostly what we're doing is just to cover this. It'll give them a nice glaze, and it'll keep them from sticking together in the pan when they're cooking as well. Okay. Okay, we're pretty gold there. All right, so now what we're going to do is let this sit covered for another half hour, and we're going to, maybe not even a half hour, maybe 15 minutes, but we're going to preheat the stove now to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll do the preheat, and we'll be right back to pop these things in the oven. In the meantime, stay tuned for today's musical guest. It's Alfie Smith, and you're going to like what he does. So the oven's preheated to 400. I'm just going to take the bag off here and have a look. This is what it should look like going in. You'll see one of these is going to come out kind of goofy right here. That's okay, you know. Who cares? Cinnamon bun. Okay, so we're going to drop these into the stove in the straight cast iron pan. At 400, and what we're going to do is we're going to set the timer for 25 minutes. Now, you're going to want to check in on this around 20 minutes or so. Just have a look to make sure that everything's looking the way it should. In the meantime, I offer you Busted Flat recording artist Alfie Smith. Enjoy, and we'll see you when these things are coming out of the oven.
Hello everyone, my name's Alfie Smith, and my good friend Dan Walsh asked me to play this song for you for his new cooking show. I believe he's cooking today a Cinnabon, so I chose East End Girl by me, because it talks about some of the sweetest places I know in Hamilton. And I thought it would pair well with his Cinnabon, unless he's doing a savory Cinnabon. I don't know what that is, so I don't have a song that goes with a savory Cinnabon. But I thought this song was a sweet song. Whatever Dan decides to do is up to him. But he promised me to make me a sandwich, which is the most important part. So I'm doing it for the love of sandwich. East End Girl. Thank you very much. Better down on Jackson Square. Took the Barton bus to Delaware. You're my East End girl, and I love you so. Making bets at the Jockey Club. That's when I knew that I was in love with my East End girl, and I love you so. Take her up to the Devil's Punch Bowl. See the city lay below. Making promises we'll never keep. Search my mind, rest in peace. You're my East End girl, and I love you so. Farmers market on Ottawa Street, but none of the berries are quite as sweet as my East End girl, and I love you so. Make it out of this rusted town, baby, Mexico watered down. You're my East End girl, and I love you so. To Dundas Peak for the rain and the sleet, waiting for the fireworks. I love you so much it starts to hurt. You're my East End girl, and I love you so. Rusted town, baby, Mexico watered down. You're my East End girl, and I love you so. You're my East End girl, and I love you so. You're my East End girl, and I love you so. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks a lot, Dan, for asking me to play. Have a great day.
Well, how about that Alfie Smith? He's a pretty good guitar player and a real good singer. Longtime friend of mine. And thanks, Alfie, for being a part of this show today. Okay, we're closing in. We're looking at about 20 seconds here to check these cinnamon rolls. Of course, you're going to want to make sure you have your oven mitts handy. The cast iron is hot. I sure do love cast iron. You know, 2 years ago I had never cooked on cast iron. Last year I started to learn how. And I'm never going back. Cast iron is king and it will last you forever. All right, let's take a look and see what we got here. That looks pretty good. All right, folks. That's what it looks like. Just showing the cam there. Show you the big cam over here. And that looked pretty good. Now, one thing that's pretty key, you're going to want to get these things out of the pan fairly quickly. Because this cast iron stays hot for a long time. So we're just going to pull them out here and then get them directly on the rack here so that they can cool off properly without being cooked anymore. They look pretty good. Pretty easy. There you go. Get the last one on here. That poor weird bun. Still good, but it's going to be the black sheep of the buns. All right. All right. There you go, folks. That's how to make cinnamon buns. Pretty easy. You could put icing on these things if you want, but I don't because my pancreas has done enough for me already in my life. I don't need any extra icing. Anyways, folks, hope you enjoyed this episode. Please consider subscribing. We got some other special guests coming up with some other trailer park style dishes to cook. So I hope you had a good time, and we'll see you guys real soon. Take care.